Hello, this is Olive Hickmott of Empowering Learning. This is a presentation for a group of adults in corporate life, many of whom were diagnosed dyslexic. Some people just knew they were struggling with literacy, and others were there because they were interested for their own children. Okay, I'm a forensic learning coach. I explore why some people find thinking, learning, and memory so challenging. I feel so strongly about this because I was dyslexic for 50 years and probably ADHD as well, and nobody told me about the advantages of learning through mental imagery and how to calm my very busy brain. My mission is to stop this omission in children and adults alike. I've been working for 18 years with hundreds and thousands of exceptional children and adults and seen remarkable changes when using mental imagery, simply by helping them to learn in a way that isn't mentioned in school visually. That's not visual teaching. When you say visual learning to school teachers, they think visual teaching because that's what they've been trained to do, teach visually. However, multisensory teaching and learning is a given in school, but visual learning is not in teacher training, so schools focus very little on visual learners and how to get the best out of using their exceptional strengths. This is a brief introduction to using mental imagery for literacy. You can go on to use mental images for maths, for foreign languages, and so much more. Okay, growing up in the dark. I'm a reformed dyslexic. In retrospect, I think it was like growing up in the dark. I couldn't spell at school. I have a report that says it would have been helpful if Olive could learn to spell. This was at the age of 16. I had been in the same school since I was 4. I also had comments like atrocious spelling is holding her back. I could read but couldn't remember anything I read, which I can tell you is extremely boring, and it puts you off of wanting to read, but I was great at maths. I found out 20 years ago that good spellers and readers visualize words. This was in the middle of an NLP training course. And I said to people at tea break, you do what? And they said, yeah, that's what we do if we're good at literacy. I was furious that nobody had taught me. I went into my local special needs school and I told them that I'd learnt something that might be useful to those who've got poor literacy. And I said, have you got any like that? And they went, we've got hundreds. Which ones do you want? I couldn't believe what I could help them achieve in minutes. They were actually better at it than me, almost instantaneously. So I taught myself, and I became an expert in visual learning. I'm a highly visual thinker and learner, and I've let go of the spelling and reading challenges and now enjoy the positives of my dyslexia and ADHD. You can read my whole story of growing up in the dark from the elephants in the classroom or on my blog. I'm only going to introduce you to what people who are good at literacy do already. This isn't anything weird. This is just modelling people who are good at it. I'd like to make something very clear to you. It was never your fault that nobody told you how to use your superior visual skills for literacy. And I'm going to repeat that. It was never your fault that nobody told you how to use your superior visual skills for literacy. And it wasn't the teacher's fault either, because they'd never been trained in mental imagery. So let's look at what mental imagery is. There's lots of sports and hobbies that use mental imagery. And I would like to say that visualizing is very, very normal. How do you find your way home, for example? Lots of these things are actually visual skills. So finding your way home, you might be on the number 73 bus, but you've got to know where to get off, and you've got to know which is your front door. People in sport use mental imagery a lot. They're not just visualizing success, they're visualizing elements of the sport. For example, for pole vaulting, all the elements of getting yourself over the bar. For long jump, for golf is really obvious. People come up to a ball and they get themselves really grounded and really focused, and they can visualize where the ball's going to go. And for soccer, if anybody's interested in soccer, you will score more goals if you visualize the net moving before you hit the ball. I was told that years ago, and I played lacrosse and I scored a shed load of goals like that. There's also things like taking things apart and putting them back together, which might be your car or your bicycle. You need to know what it's going to look like. And of course, making IKEA furniture without the instructions is another visual skill. There's things like art and painting from memory and dressmaking and sewing. And gardening, especially garden design, is a fabulous visual skill. You can just look at somebody's garden and imagine what it will look like when you've changed it. And then you can even imagine what it's going to look like in 6 months' time. And if you want to copy an expert who's doing something you want to be able to do, then you'll probably do that visually too. And of course, all the memory experts use mental imagery in different ways to improve their ability to remember. Now I'd like to come on to the benefits of dyslexia. Now here I'm not talking about the superpowers and not the celebrities. Some people find that that's much too big a jump for them. But behind their strengths are some exceptional visual skills that people have if they haven't had them suppressed in school. Typically they are picture thinking and a mind's eye that can run anything in very fast video if needed, the ability to see different perspectives, either visually or in solving a problem. A few years ago, I created a word called perspectivus, which was genius level ability to see different perspectives simultaneously. Then there's the ability to change from 2D into 3D. So if you're looking at a map with contour lines, you might be able to imagine the mountains and hills in 3D. There's high-speed ability to make connections between different facts. Again, great for problem solving. Exceptional interpersonal skills, and I never know if that's because people struggle to write and read, so they'd rather talk, or whether that's really something to do with dyslexia. Then there's all the stuff like creativity and design and engineering and a high intelligence and amazing business skills sometimes. And I give a question to you is, which of those ones apply to you and do you value them? But has anyone taught you how else to use these visual strengths for literacy and numeracy, etc.? I doubt it. Let me explain to you the neuroscience. Everybody likes to know a bit of neuroscience about how this works. First of all, when you're really small, you access the meaning of a word. So you start to recognize your own name, for example. When you're a little bit bigger, you start to be able to pronounce words. So there's access to pronunciation, and there's being able to articulate whole sentences. So those are the three things that go on long before we even see words. When we see a word, and there's our eye down there, there's two parts of your brain which takes the word apart and puts it back together again. And those are those two parts here, one just above in your forehead and one in the middle of your head. Once you've seen the word 2 or 3 times, it ought to drop down into the word form area, which is right next to the occipital lobe. The occipital lobe is where you keep your pictures. So if I say to you, picture a cat, you'll go to the occipital lobe to find a picture of a cat. If I say to you, don't see an elephant, you've probably still gone to the occipital lobe, seen an elephant, and now trying to rub it out. Now, the word form area is right next to the occipital lobe. And so once you've seen a word 2 or 3 times, you want to move the word down into the word form area, which is that red star. And so you're building up your dictionary of words in your brain. And then when you see a word that you've seen before, you want to go on the express pathway straight to the word form area. So this is how you learn to recognize words. And the same way is how you learn to spell words. So you access the word form area, you see what it looks like, and then you write it down. Making friends with your mental imagery. It's really easy to spot somebody using mental imagery because if you just look at their eyes, you will see that they're looking up to access mental images. You will notice their mental images time and time again when you look closely. Can I ask you to picture an object that you're familiar with, for example, an apple? Notice what it looks like. There is no right and wrong. This is your apple. You can have a green one, a green and red one, you can have a yellow one, or actually you can have one with pink stripes on it. It's up to you. It's your apple. And then will you be able to describe it to other people? So you're just making friends with your mental images. Then move on to something like an elephant or a lion and explain that to somebody else. Everyone needs to become comfortable with their own images and not be overwhelmed and frightened by them. Neuroscience tells us that all these images hang out in the occipital lobe, which I mentioned before. If you can't control your mental images, just wait a minute and I'll help you. I really would recommend to encourage discussion about mental imagery. You can talk about past events like last Christmas. You can talk about something of creativity or something you've imagined. You can have pictures in full colour like the TV, or you can have black and white, or you can have cartoons, or you can just know what they look like and what size they are and what texture they are. If you try moving onto animals, you may find that they are still or they are moving. For anyone who hasn't made friends with their mental imagery, you might like to get a little bit more control over it, and that's what I'll come on to next. If your images are out of control, that picture there is exactly what you look like. It's really painful, really uncomfortable. So what I want to do is to teach you how to control your mental images in just a few minutes. So start with slow, gentle breathing in and out through your nose. Like the little chap at the bottom here, the one with the glasses, you'll notice the other one's breathing through his mouth, and he's much more hyperactive. So breathe in slowly, gently through your nose and out through your nose. Breathe right down into your belly. And while I'm talking, just practice this for a few moments. There are millions of people who are over-breathing through their mouths worldwide, and this is bad for all manner of health challenges and stress. And in the USA, they reckon 70% of the people diagnosed with ADHD are mouth breathers. This has a major effect on inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. Mouth breathing increases stress, avoids vital nasal functions, and reduces your carbon dioxide, which in turn restricts oxygenation to every cell of your body, including your brain. So notice how you're starting to relax more and how it reduces your anxiety. Having created a relaxed, gentle breathing, imagine you can ground your feet or the base of your spine. Grounding is something that if you do Pilates or yoga, you're probably quite familiar with. But what we want you to do is to enable you to feel really solidly connected to the earth and the natural gravity. With just a little practice, you will have control over your mental imagery. You will be able to select one still picture or more at will. Now let's look at how mental imagery can help you with reading, spelling, and so much more. Now I'm going to show you how to improve your writing. It is really useful when you're in a business meeting or when you're talking to somebody one-to-one or when you're in a presentation. Firstly, copy down what I've written on the screen there. Improve your writing. The little picture on the side was of a child who clearly was extremely good at drawing but didn't know how to write. This would really help her. So now copy down, here is a secret, without looking at the paper. And yes, I did say without looking at the paper, in whatever style you like. Select one of the styles here and just copy it down. And what are you noticing? You're not looking at the paper, but you'll find that actually you start writing quicker. So you'll speed up. Secondly, if you copy carefully, you can improve your handwriting too. To start with, it might be a bit messy, but very quickly it will improve in just a few days if you practice this skill. Now let's move on to reading. Now you've got control over your pictures, you can use them for words. First, try reading a paragraph of any book or newspaper and notice which words you recognize and which you need to break down in and blend back together again. The words you recognise are already in your brain's word form area, so congratulations. Now notice where the book or the newspaper is. If you raise it a little higher, does it improve your reading? This isn't magic, but a function of your eye position to keep you out of any negative emotions that you naturally access when you're looking down. Find anything you are motivated to read. Just read to yourself with the book propped up until you create some confidence and feel free to ask words you don't understand. Don't read aloud yet. That creates performance anxiety. You can start with reading to the cat or a baby because they won't make you feel bad about performance. So wait until you're confident before you start reading aloud to human beings. Comprehension is the last section here. Comprehension. Whilst you're reading, you can make up pictures of what the story is about. That's how you're meant to remember what the story is. That's the thing nobody told me as well. So let's go on to spelling some words. If you're struggling to read, go to spelling, where we have some neat tricks for developing word recognition, and then come back to reading later. Spelling. You need to start with really simple words. If you've tried something like look, cover, write, notice the subtle differences that makes all the difference. What we're heading for is to be able to visualize words, which is an essential skill for literacy. Those who are good at literacy picture words in their mind's eye. That's their mental images. English has a deep orthographic depth, which means phonics isn't good enough. You need to be able to picture words as well. So relax again. Picture a dog, say, or a cat if you prefer. Tell your image to keep still. No tail wagging. Write the word dog on a post-it. Hold it in front of the person and transfer the word dog onto the dog. Spell it forwards. Change the colour of it, and then in reverse order. Let's do a bit of practice with Teddy. You will notice that all the words are noun words. This is the place to start. You can use capitals, whatever the student prefers. Use picture words to start with. This is a simple step-by-step process as you put the words in the pictures. You can practice with longer and longer words, always going for building on success, and hence confidence grows. Everyone can do it. Then copy down from your mental image to paper without looking at the paper. Picturing words creates word recognition and fluent reading. You only need phonics for new words. Have fun practicing. There are more tricks for doing words without pictures, homophones, numbers, anything else you want to learn. Now, how can you help? I think it's a child's right to know about the power of visual learning and be helped to learn in a way that works best for their highly visual skills. There are thousands of highly talented children who struggle in school for no fault of their own. I've been teaching parents and their kids these simple skills for 18 years, developing their visual skills to enhance school and home education. So you can complete the online survey I have provided. I've offered follow-up events, and do practice gently. Do start helping each other. Just a chat over lunch to help each other would do. And if you're worried that dyslexia is genetic, I don't buy into that belief. Do have a look at my YouTube, Being Genetic. So here are some more resources that you might like. You can go to my website, empoweringlearning.co.uk. There's more resources there. There's more training courses. And in a corporate environment, it would be great to have a few people trained as practitioners so that they could train other people. You'll find masterclasses there, and you'll find a step-by-step study guide for literacy and numeracy. There are lots of mini videos on YouTube. During lockdown, we did 3 or 4 a week, and during the month of October, I am doing daily videos for dyslexia awareness and ADHD awareness. Go to my channel, Olive Hickmott, and press the subscribe button so that you can just focus on my videos. You'll also find some useful stuff on my blog, which is olivehickmott.co.uk, and you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. The videos I'm putting out on YouTube at 10 o'clock every morning are success stories for dyslexia and ADHD. So thank you for joining me. My email address is olive@empoweringlearning.co.uk. You are more than welcome to contact me. There's the 3 books I have written on learning differences, and the last one, or the most recent one, is The Elephants in the Classroom. You can learn the skills for yourself, you can learn to be a coach, and you can learn to teach others. Don't forget to fill in the online quiz, because that will help you understand your mental imagery, and also the people who are organising dyslexia in the company to understand what sort of training they could usefully use. Thank you for listening.